Okay, thank you for having stayed with us. Welcome back to Cocoa Breakfast Show. Now, just like we promised earlier, we're going to be joined by somebody who is actually an advocate and a very, prosperous and successful man. His name is Mr. Gilbert Banda, who is doing more than what is required in the industry when we talk about meat processing. Just like I mentioned to you earlier, I want to venture into that. I want to prepackage, goat meat, mamita, Jamine. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back on your show.
Exactly. Thank you very much. It's been a while, though.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, I believe there's some individuals out there who are meeting or who are seeing this face for the first time.
Yeah.
Who is Mr. Gilbert Banda?
Well, Gilbert Banda is an author. I've written 5 books.
Okay.
He's a businessman. I run different businesses. And I'm a motivational speaker. I inspire people, inspiring the nation.
Sure.
Our company is called MOCAT, Motivational Center for Africa's Transformation. We're a transformational company, so in our name is our vision for Africa.
Okay. Now, actually, having spoken about the arena of motivation, I believe in everything that you do, people get inspired, because I'm one of those that were inspired. That's why I want to venture into, production of goat meat into that. Exactly.
I like that. Okay.
Exactly. Now, just before we actually get deeper into our talk, I would love to ask, what is really meat processing to you? When you just look at that, there's a farmer out there who actually want to understand the whole process of meat processing, because I believe there are different kind of meat processing stages that are there. Perhaps if it's for chicken, beef, or you want to preserve fish, but what processes are there? Okay,
I always, with the classes that we run, we always talk about meat processing as divided in adding value, and those processes involve number 1, which is primary processing. And primary processing is basically from if you're talking about being on a farm, you're talking about taking your chicken from the chicken coop to bring it to the slaughterhouse. You slaughter it, you take out the feathers, you cut it up, you package it and take it to the marketplace. All that is under primary processing. So you are really not adding any additives to that. The second part of processing is called secondary processing. Secondary processing is a common one which we've been airing and promoting in terms of adding value, where you now add additives, whether it's salt, whether it's spices, and the different things that you want to add to either prolong the shelf life of the product, or you want to add some so that it tastes better, or it has a different taste, so to create variety for consumers. So primary and secondary processing is that, in secondary processing, so it's all the processes that you do from primary processing, when you start adding salt, when you start adding spices and so forth. And that process can be either for goats, for pigs, for beef, for fish, because you want to get more value. And you easily get more value when you do secondary processing, because people appreciate more secondary processing, because it's almost either it's ready to eat, like if you make a Hungarian sausage. When a Hungarian sausage comes on the shelf, it's a ready to eat meat. If you're talking about polony, it's ready to eat. You just immediately you can get it from the shop, you can and slice it and immediately start eating. So why people appreciate ready to eat foods is because it cuts down on the preparation time for a meal. So you find that, if you have got polony and you've got bread, you easily, slice it up, and in no time it's in your mouth. So nutritionally, you find that, people are more, especially when in busy professionals, people who are living in the cities, people who are don't have much time to prepare all those things. Bachelors, I hope you're not a bachelor. They prefer ready-to-eat foods and so forth. So that's why you find that, when you do secondary processing, you actually get more value. So if it's a farmer who's growing something out there, instead of selling a pig, you're better off selling bacon or polony, because then for every kg that you produce there, you get more value. You can imagine that, if you're selling a pig, if you take it to the abattoir, they'll pay you a price less than 20,000. Others will pay you between 17 kwacha per kg to maybe, at most they'll pay you 20 kwacha per kg. But the same pig, if you add value to it, you find that the polony, the price will jump from what they offer you in primary processing at 20 kwacha, it will jump up to 60, even 80 kwacha per kg, depending if it's a polony or depending if it's bacon. So you find that, you know, if you add value, you actually, you know, make a quantum leap in terms of income.
Okay. Now, actually, having spoken that, having spoken about the two different kinds of processing that are there,
Yes.
and the one which I'm more interested in is about that one which is adding more value, which is the secondary, you know, processing.
Absolutely.
When we look at the economy of Zambia, if you venture into this kind of business, do you see any disadvantages that can make a farmer lose out maybe on 2-3 years run on the line, or maybe there will be an increase which is going to be more powerful than they had before?
Well, I think for farmers, what I say is that, you know, they say one is too small a number for greatness. I would always propagate that, you know, a group of farmers, 10 farmers who are keeping cattle or who are keeping pigs or keeping chickens, they can easily set up one processing plant. So that one processing plant is able to get the product from their farm and process it and take it to market. And market here, what we teach in our class is that, you know, you must never only look at market as, you know, on the street corner or your neighbor. You should be looking at producing a world-class product so that you can take it to the world market.
Sure.
Because now, you know, the world is becoming hungrier by the day. All the time, you know, there are over 1.3 billion people who are hungry, who need food. So there's a huge deficit. So places which can produce food like this great republic called Zambia, we should take advantage to go to the world market. Sometimes not necessarily world market, just a regional market. If you look at Comesa, you look at SADC, just here next door, if you look at Congo, most people there are musicians and their industry is really in music. They're not farmers. And so if here we're able to, you know, produce goats, like your goat meat, and by the way, you know, Congo is your best market for your goats,
sure.
whether it's a processed goat or
not.
You know, because once you package it, why we package is because we want, when you are transporting, it increases your shelf life. Because if you just, you know, take a goat which is live, maybe to die on the way, but if you slaughter it, package it, it means that even when you ship it to your customer, it will stay longer on the shelf until it is bought. Especially when you tin it and put it in a package, you find that the shelf life is far longer, and then you will not be worried about, it's like, what is the biggest problem for tomato farmers? It's because of shelf life. So they produce so many tomatoes and they go to Soweto, they find that the whole market is flooded. But you know, a clever entrepreneur will say, when the market is flooded, that's the time to process, add value. You increase the shelf life. So it stays longer on the shelf and takes advantage of the downtime when the prices are high, then you offload on the market. But also, when you increase shelf life, it means that, you know, you don't only sell to your neighbors, you can actually, you know, ship to Brazil, you can ship to South Africa, and so forth. So you find that, you know, there you survive better as an entrepreneur when you have a global perspective. Okay,
actually, having spoken about the increasing of the shelf life for the product that you are having or you have processed of late, now the greatest question that would come is the preserving methods. That you are sensitizing the general public of late, because I've actually seen your adverts running. There's one which you had in Dola, Kitwe. Yeah, we go to all the provincial towns. Exactly. Now, the greatest question that one would want to know, because I believe there are thousands of people out there who follow the beautiful teachings that you have about processing meat and everything. The preserving of the meat. I'll go straight to beef. Would you just explain in a nutshell how the beef can be? What I call getting more value from local beef. Exactly. If you want to get more value from local beef, one of the first, if you're talking about primary processing, is if you slaughter your cow, and then you, in the primary processing, you cut it up, you package it either as T-bone or you package it as one of the things that you can do when it is still fresh, is that you can actually keep it to still maintain its freshness up to 21 days. 21 days. And that 21 days is at the time that you can be able to
store it, whether it's you store it in a fridge or deep freezer. But the idea is that, you know, once, if you're storing beef, once it goes over 21 days, it begins to lose its taste, it begins to lose its freshness. And so it may not be the same beef that people clamor for. Because people are looking for something fresh. You don't want something which, you know, when you are cooking it, you are thinking, is it still fresh? Is it, you know?
Exactly.
So people are looking for freshness. But also when you take that same beef, cut it up, mince it, and create sausage. If you create a Burvos sausage, for instance, that's a sausage which is beef and pork. If you create a Burvos sausage, you can also store it between 14 days to 28 days. And the best is to store it in a refrigeration. So you need to make sure that it's that. But things like if you smoke it, if you smoke the beef, you can actually extend its shelf life. That is why if you look back in the villages, back in those days, when they preserved the meat, they always, you know, smoked. When you have smoked meat, either, you know, it stays far longer, more than 30 days. You can store it. Actually, if it is well smoked, it can even, you know, stay much longer, because that's the way people preserve meats like that, so that they're able to, you know, from the time of festivities like now, it's time for when people like to slaughter a lot of animals. So if you have excess, then you want to store it by smoking it. So the smoking process is very easy. Traditionally, most Africans have been, if you go to the village, they'll teach you how to smoke. Sure. And basically, you know, in the modern times, what we have done is that instead of that traditional processing, now they have added technology, whether you're using a smoker, which is electrical, or some others use what is called liquid smoke, which you put on the meat, and it will still give you the same taste as a smoked product. But depending on the client, most clients also prefer that traditional smoking, where it's actual smoke which passes through and smoked and cooks your meat.
Okay. Now, if you have just joined us, this is Kokoroko Breakfast Show, and I'm joined by Mr. Gilbert Banda, who is actually an advocate of, you know, a very powerful organization, and they're able to teach and sensitize you on how you can do well to improve your profit market and also improve, you know, the sale skills that you have on that same product. Now, Mr. Gilbert, just as we try to wrap up, what, or let me actually ask where exactly the location for the offices are for the organization.
Right. Our offices are in Lusaka, but what we have done is that we have created regional hubs. So we have got networks. We've created a network of people that represent us in all the provincial towns, and they will call clients, they will advertise on our behalf there, so that we're able to have people to train every time that we're in like this particular time will be in Solwezi. Sure. And so the people in Solwezi, Kalumbila, the people in most of surrounding in northwestern Zambia there. And we're hoping that in the future we can go to each of those towns, but now we're limited to the provincial towns, because I think it's easy for us to organize, and we have a presence there in terms of people that organize for us. In terms of our head office, we're in Lusaka in Northmead, number 32 Paseli Road. Okay. And this component of the training really falls under our agribusiness program. We have other programs like I talked to you about, where we talk about just general business, in terms of, you know, entrepreneurship, in terms of managing your business, all the aspects that have to do with business, which we manage them under different departments. But the agribusiness is really to focus on farmers, to help them. How do they get more value from local chickens, local pigs, from fish? And so our emphasis in pushing this program is really to make sure that, you know, they get more value. Because I think if you would know that farming, we have been saying as a country that we want farming to be the thing that, you know, becomes a mainstay, becomes the major part of the economy. It can only be a mainstay if we understand the whole value chain, so that farmers are able to get money, they're able to get rich farming. Because I think now people usually want to say, I want to get a job. And so farming, when you say our biggest opportunity, you can imagine that, you know, all these processors, if they had all the machinery, on average, each one will employ 3 people. So the jobs which politicians keep talking about creating in farming is the easiest route. And I keep challenging most politicians that if you want to create jobs, focus on agriculture, have a political will to ensure that, you know, there's more effort in terms of value addition, in terms of promoting production, so that whole range, the spectrum, you're able to ensure that these farmers have, you know, access to credit, they have, you know, the potential to be able to really grow this economy. And I think for me, I'm very passionate about that. And every time I find opportunity to be able to air my views, it's really about, let's create jobs. Let's be patriots in creating jobs in the agribusiness sector. That's our low-hanging fruit. We can easily achieve those goals without any qualms.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilbert Banda, having come to Oklo Breakfast Show.
It was a pleasure being on your show once again, and we hope that, you know, some of our participants can join us in our series of trainings which we're having in country, and that should be able to, I think, take them to the next level in terms of what Mr. Sata used to call more money in the pocket.
Exactly.
So every farmer needs to have more money in the pocket by adding value. Value addition is a way for industrialization for this great republic.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to take our last sets of commercials. We'll be right back shortly as we sum up Oklo Breakfast Show. I believe you've learned something, because I am going to also plan something different with my colleague. We'll be coming right shortly. Stay tuned.